Welcome to today's episode. And today I'd like to introduce Jill Leshin. Jill has been an educator for over 30 years. She's got a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, a bachelor's degree in elementary ed, and she's a certified reading specialist and early childhood specialist. She's also a mindfulness coach for children and parents. She's absolutely amazing, a great friend of mine. Jill is also the owner of Pre-K Academy Enrichment. Pre-K Academy offers fun enrichment classes that further prepare children for kindergarten and for life. Pre-K Academy is housed at the JCC, which is located on North Scottsdale Road, just south of Scottsdale and Thunderbird if you're a local. And her program is amazing. You can find information online, but without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jill.
Hello. Good to see you, Amber.
I'm so happy to have you on today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I've been really looking forward to this interview for months now because we talked about it first in around Christmas, right? Around the dinner party here. And so I want you to talk a little bit about your training history and what you've been up to recently for training for pre-K and the things that excite you right now.
Well, I've been in business for myself for 15 years. I started out as a classroom teacher. I taught kindergarten, first and second grade.
Thank you for your service.
Well, and I loved being a classroom teacher, but I just felt like I needed to reach more kids. And I was only able to reach the 25, 28 kids that were in my class. And I really wanted to reach more kids in a real personal way. And when you have 28 kids in a classroom, that's really difficult to do. So I started my own company, and I've been doing that for 15 years, and it just continues to unfold beautifully. I started out as a private tutor doing reading tutoring, which I love, and I really enjoyed that for a really long time. And then, like I said, I wanted to reach more kids, so I developed Pre-K Academy, and those are reading readiness classes and kinder prep classes for children. But the thing that I'm most excited about, and I want to talk mostly about today, is I am also what I like to call a mindfulness coach for children first and for moms and dads. And that's been my real, right now, that is just what I am, my heart. I'm so passionate about it because especially off of COVID, we're finding out like 1 in 4 kids has some sort of mental health issue right now.
Wow.
And I just feel like if we're able to reach children early on, before the age of 8, when the subconscious is really being formed, and give them the skills and tools that they can use wherever they go in life to help them be successful, that is my passion. And I can't emphasize it enough. I've raised 2 boys myself. I'm also a mom. I have a senior in high school, and I have a son in college.
Your children are also like masterfully respectful to everyone. They are,
thank you.
Like they're ambitious.
They're very ambitious.
Your kid basically runs a business himself. He also like works almost full time and is going to school. Like he's really ambitious,
very motivated.
Child. Yeah, it's insane.
Well, what's inspired me to do what I'm doing now is the way I describe my kids is they have strong mental fitness. They have like Luke, he has the mindset of steel, and
that's her senior.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben, he just has this passion, desire for life that is just it's insatiable. But when you're a passionate kid like that and you have so much you want to do, you really have to understand how your brain works so that you can direct that passion in a positive way, because sometimes when you have that kind of passion, it can go in the wrong direction. So my whole, as a mom, my whole intention was just how can I direct that amazing passion that my son has for life and for all the things that he really is interested in a way that's going to uplift others, in a way where he can contribute something amazing to the world, because he's got that grit for it. And so I know he's going to do great things, and I can't wait to see what it is.
Have you read that book, Angela Duckworth's Grit?
No.
It is amazing. And I actually think that it's a culmination of exactly what you're doing. So you're combining motherhood and teacher history to create something that helps drive children's natural learning ability and also maybe their natural proclivities toward some area of interest to drive something productive for themselves for the future. Yeah. And if we don't have any natural, the book basically describes, if we don't have any natural inclination for something, like if I don't want to play piano and I don't like it, I could practice 10,000 hours and be okay at it. But if I really love it and I think I could be good at it and I have a little bit of natural inclination for it, if someone could push me in the right direction and help me formulate those natural abilities a little bit, I could be masterful at it.
Inspired action. I mean, that's the thing that I really want to drive home for parents today is children are born with greatness. And I'm not saying one child is. I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Every child, every single child is born with greatness in their heart. And we are responsible as their teachers, as their parents especially, to help them to discover that greatness and then help direct that greatness. It's kind of like, a great way to sort of describe it is parents and teachers, we're, on a highway when you're driving on a highway and if you hit the bumpers on the side, the little bumps, and that's just supposed to say to you, hey, you get back on the road, that's there for safety to get back on the road. So a child should be allowed to drive their vehicle as fast as they want or as slow as they want. And parents and teachers are there just to kind of keep them on their path. So that's really what my classes aim to do is my classes teach children skills so that they can unfold their own life journey and really unpack and recognize their own personal greatness.
Okay, so that kind of hits me in the heartstring. Just what you're talking about with how parents need to be parents and use these guardrails for their children, but allow them to be children and experience the world and, get their hands dirty and experience what squishy is. And instead of constantly wiping everything off, if you put dirt in your mouth, is it really the end of the world? It's a learning experience every time you do that.
Right.
Yuck, that doesn't taste good. Ugh, I want to get that off of my tongue. Every single experience is something that heads us in a certain direction, whether it's a sensory experience or a sound experience. Ooh, that's too loud. All of it. And then we also, like you mentioned, have this 25% that may have some kind of dysregulation, whether it be from mental emotional or it be from sensory systems, whatever that is. And so your program tends to integrate all of those children, correct?
Oh my gosh. We like I said, every child is born with greatness in their heart. Every single one of them. And it's our job to help them is really what it is, to help them shine the light on their own personal greatness. And when they discover their own personal greatness, it's inspired action.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't have to force them to do things. You give them a little bit of a push, kind of like when you're pushing them up to get on the swing for the first time, you kind of lift them up and put them on the swing, and then they start to swing themselves. Or if they're trying to climb something and they just need a little bit of a push to get up to the top so they can actually climb it themselves. That's our job. We are just boosting them up, and we do that through just really understanding who they are and allowing them to be who they are and not trying to mold them into anything. This is a great way to describe it. When you were talking about getting dirty and sensory like that, what I believe is every child is born with like a glob of clay, and it's just a glob, okay? And their job is to mold it into whatever masterpiece they want to be, and that's their life. That clay is their life. They're supposed to mold their masterpiece in place. Our job, give them the clay and give them the space to mold it and encourage them. That's it. They're going to mold it. And if we allow them to mold it, it's going to be amazing.
That made me think of some conversations I've had with, my little brother is 18. Okay. My nieces and nephews are younger than that. And we grew up in a house with foster children.
Yeah.
And the rule was no one older than the youngest. So we always had younger kids. And my question when someone would do something that I didn't think was part of their character. So one brother is really funny.
Yeah.
And one of them's meticulously intuitive. He's highly intellectual. So if it didn't fall within his character, the question that I would ask was, well, is that what you want to be?
Oh.
Is that what you want to be?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you get this moment where they're like, oh, this is not a normal behavior for me.
I love
it. And it also places the question of now they're kind of comparing. What are they doing? They're looking in. It's it's an interesting thing to do with like younger children too.
Yeah.
But as they're aging and they can answer more readily to what that is, it's like an accountability question, I guess.
I love that.
Anything that gets them ticking about what they're doing and what they're being what energy they're unfolding.
We want them to turn on their own light. So I that's something that as kids get older, like junior high and high school, instead of telling them what to do and what not to do and making all these rules, ask them a bunch of questions. You know, when you ask them questions, they look, first of all, it builds their self-esteem because they feel like, hey, she's really interested in what I have to say. And I might have something important to say. So it gets them thinking. But, you know, when you ask a child a question, it pulls them out. And this is interesting. This is a little bit of brain science, which is you didn't even know you were doing this, but you were being, I always tell parents, you are like a behavior, you're a scientist. That's what parents should be. We're scientists. We're always looking at our kids. Behavior is just information. It gives us information about the child, and it gives us information about what skills they don't have yet so that we can teach them those skills. Yeah.
Their behavior shows us that. It's just data. But when a child misbehaves, we often want to tell them how to act. And it doesn't really work. I mean, we all know that. I mean, you tell them you need to sit quietly, you need to clean your room. They clean it once and then they're like, ugh. You know, I mean, you want them to, you know, clean it because they want to feel organized and that makes them feel better and helps them get more creative. Inspired action. That's what we want from them. And it's hard because we're practicing humans too. You know, kids are, I always say that I'm a practicing human. I get in my lower states of my brain all the time. But I want to talk a little bit about brain states because this is really important. And this is some science that's just amazing that I love. There's a program called Conscious Discipline written by Dr. Becky Bailey, and I'm obsessed with this program. So, you know, make sure you check that out. But Dr. Bailey talks about the 3 different brain states. And she says that there is the red state of the brain, which is the survival state, which is the lower state. And then there's the emotional state of the brain, which is the state, it's like in your amygdala, which is, am I loved? So there's, am I safe? Am I loved? Those are so the lower part is, am I safe? The behavior indicates the child is trying to check out. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And
highly defensive, like reactionary. Like you walk out of the cave and is there a threat out here?
That's what the brain is doing.
And that's what they can only focus on. Can't go into higher functions.
The brain is just a focusing mechanism. We are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. And we have to teach kids that. Because once you can get out of your head, that's when you really see the greatness unfold. So if you teach a child about their brains, hey, you've got 3 parts to your brain. You've got your survival state, your brain is saying, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? You've got your emotional state. My brain is saying, am I loved? Am I loved? Am I loved? And then you have your executive state, which is your prefrontal cortex. And that's where you create. That's where you can think, problem solve, make good choices. So all our jobs are as parents, our only job is, and this is hard because we also have survival state, emotional state, and executive state ourselves. So if we can understand how our brains work, you can't teach a skill you don't have. So we have to learn how our brains work first and then teach our kids how their brains work. But what we can do for children is to really notice their behavior and meet them where they are. So if a child is, you know, screaming, I hate you, crying because you told them not to do something that wasn't safe. You go over to them and you say to them, you seem really frustrated. Your body looks, and you show them what their body looks like. Because children before the age of 8, they think in pictures. So most parents, when their kid is misbehaving, they're like, discipline, 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 discipline. Well, all that does is teach the child not to feel. And it also teaches the child that their only job is to please others. We don't want to raise a bunch of people pleasers. We want to raise independent, confident kids. So we have to know where the child is in their brain. Are they in the survival state? That is where they don't feel safe. Like maybe they fell and they're crying because they are scared. Their body hurts. This is a sensation they've never felt before. Your only job is you are safe. You are safe. You are safe. And you help them breathe. You co-regulate with them. Because breathing pulls us out of the lower states. So you just hold them really, really tight. And you just say, you are safe. You are safe. You are safe. And you do something called download the calm. Dr. Bailey talks a lot about that in Conscious Discipline. and I like to take it a little step further. I call my philosophy of parenting is monkey see, monkey do parenting.
Okay.
And that is so true because children, they think in pictures. So they're constantly looking at your face and your body to figure out what they're supposed to do. So if a child is freaking out and you're freaking out, that's just like adding fuel to the fire.
You know, in marketing and business, they talk a lot about how you can be a trusted resource, and the number one trusted resource being your mother as like the example.
Yeah.
So, you know, like she is trust.
Yeah.
She's supposed to give you the best information at the right moment.
Yeah.
And she's empathy, meaning she totally understands exactly the emotions that you are currently going through.
Yeah.
Not I feel bad for your feelings, but I feel what you feel.
Yes.
And you know, not everyone has that experience. You can't just like walk down the street and like, wow, I really feel that person, you know, that's sitting there in anguish. But a mother can.
That's so important. And there's actually a name for that. It's called attunement. And the mother is biologically wired to feel what the child is feeling. It's really, but this is the hard part.
I do believe that 100%.
Yes, we are, because 93% of all communication when kids are before the age of 8 is nonverbal. It's energetic, it's tone, it's body language, all of that. But here's the hard part about being a mom. And it's been hard for me too. It's really hard for me because I'm a deep feeler. So I have a deep feeling kid. One of my kids is a deep feeler. So when you have a deep feeling kid and you're a deep feeler, it's really hard to control your brain sometimes because you feel really intensely. That emotional state of your brain is like, like when your kid is crying, you're crying. Like your heart hurts. When your kid is hurting, your heart hurts. And so if you don't know how your brain works, you can easily parent from the lower state of your brain. And, you know, I hate to say it, but anytime you parent from your survival state or your emotional state, you're not, I call it mommying to your highest good. You're not.
You're feeding into it, right?
Yeah.
You're not helping them out of it.
You don't have access to your executive state. Your executive state is the only place that you can mommy to your highest good because that's your prefrontal cortex. That's where you can think and problem solve, and you can do it clearly. And that's really where your higher self comes in. That's your higher self. That's who you are. That's your divine self. We all, as moms, we want to do the best for our kids. So we want to learn how our brains work so we can be divine parents, not just okay parents. I don't want to be an okay mom. I want to be a divine mom. And I can say that, you know, with almost 100% certainty that everyone who chooses to be a parent wants to be the best parent they can be. And the thing is we weren't taught how to do that. We weren't taught how our brains work. So it's hard to be the best parent you can be if you don't know how to control your own brain. It's kind of like this, Amber. When you teach a kid to drive a car, right? They go through driving lessons. They learn how to drive a car. If you just put a kid in a car and said drive, they're going to crash and burn, right?
Yeah, not the best method.
No, but here's what's challenging about being a parent. You're put in a car and you're given no direction, and you're supposed to just drive. But here's the cool thing. If you know how your brain works, then you'll know how to mommy to your highest good or daddy to your highest good. And you'll also be able to teach your kids how their brain works. So yeah, that's really important.
So part of your program focuses on helping children learn how to learn, how to regulate themselves.
Right.
So that they'll be successful in schools. That's why you focus on the pre-K.
I focus so my classes start at age 3. My early childhood classes for emotional regulation and self-regulation it's called Silly to Still with Miss Jill, because I'm Miss Jill. Silly to Still.
I'm going to call you that for the rest of the podcast.
Silly to Still. And the kids actually call me Miss Jilly Willy. So that's like kind of my name. And I love it. It's so cute. So my 3 to 5 year olds get to attend a class called Silly to Still. And they learn all about their feelings, how to identify their feelings. And they learn that all feelings are good. There are some good feelings, and then there's some bad feelings, but there's no bad feelings. I mean, really, the thing is that we've misunderstood for so long, but now we're starting to understand is that feelings are great because they tell you what you do like and what you don't like. And if you can learn how to understand your negative emotions, fear, sadness, anger, if you can teach children to learn how to notice those feelings, to hug those feelings, embrace those feelings, appreciate those feelings, and then we teach them how to breathe them out. Because when you're in those negative spaces, anger, fear, sadness, you're not going to make good choices because you're in your lower state of your brain. You're in your amygdala. And you got to get out of your amygdala into your prefrontal cortex to make good choices. So if we can teach children how to breathe out those negative emotions, then we're teaching them how to self-regulate. We're teaching them how to go from the lower states of their brain to the higher states of their brain. And when they're in the higher states of the brain, children are born naturally to uplift others. They want to please. They want to be good. They just don't know how, because feelings can be really, especially negative feelings, all negative feelings, very uncomfortable. And think about it. When we taught our children how to walk, did they walk the first time?
No, it takes hundreds of repetitions. Try again.
And they fall.
Yay!
Yes. And they fall a lot, right? They fall a lot.
Yeah.
But when a child misbehaves, what do? We punish.
And it's just a single failure of something that's not going well regulating wise.
It's just their behavior is telling you there's a skill that I don't understand, that I don't have, and I need you to teach it to me. Or I'm having a negative emotion and I don't know how to get it out. And so I'm acting on that negative emotion. Help me.
I have a really good friend, Aviana. I knew her from Split in AU. She's a beautiful woman and a singer, and her grandma is Polynesian. And she told me this story. She was like a toddler. They go into Walmart and they're walking through the toy aisle, and she throws a fit because they are not getting any toys. And that is what she wanted. So she starts screaming and she like throws herself on the floor. She's throwing this huge tantrum, and she's walking with her mom and her grandma, and her grandmother gets down on the floor and did the exact same thing she just did.
Oh my gosh.
She said she stood up and she looked at her grandmother and she goes, and she was like embarrassed.
Yeah.
And she goes, I never did that ever again.
You know why? Do you know why? Because children think in pictures, and she didn't have an awareness of what she looked like. And when her grandma showed her, she went, whoa.
It was the funniest story.
Yeah.
And it made me think of exactly what you're saying.
But
she did it.
That's actually one of the parenting strategies you'll learn in my classes, is that you show a child what they look like. So she's a scientist and she didn't even know it. She's a parenting expert. The grandma was a parenting expert and didn't even know it. When a child is throwing a tantrum like that, you look at them and you show them what they're doing. You say, your face is going like this and your body is going like this. You seem frustrated. And they look at you like, what in the world? And when they're looking at you like, what are they doing? Like to their parent, why is my mom on the ground throwing, I'm like, why is my grandma throwing a fit like that? Well, you know what that does? It gets them to notice. Noticing comes from the executive state, the higher state. So immediately you're pulling them out of the lower state by just showing them what they're doing, because it's getting them to notice. To notice something is executive state, prefrontal cortex. That's where if we're in our prefrontal cortex, we are showing our greatness. Parents, kids, anyone. If you are in your executive state, that is when you're living your divine self. That's the only way you can live your divine self. And we all have a brain. We all have emotional states. We all have survival states. We just know how to drive. Need to know how to drive our vehicle, which is our brain, which is our vehicle in life.
So I want to bring up something that happened recently.
Yeah.
So can I share about when I came in and how I heard this story?
100%. I would love that.
So recently, her younger son was in a terrible car accident.
My heart pounds just when you say it.
And I'm sure it was incredible. Basically, her son got in and I'll let you tell a little more details later. I got to the house. Her son had been in this terrible accident and was basically in a collision with a semi-truck.
Two
semi-trucks with friends in the car. And her son had to be emergency evacuated to a Flagstaff hospital.
Yes.
And they that's all the information they got. And they're driving up to Flagstaff, her and her husband, Ken, who are just waiting to hear any kind of news and not certain what kind of state he was really in.
Yeah.
Luckily, he is doing fantastic.
Right.
He's walking. He actually was just at a charity event we did last night, Feed My Starving Children. We went out.
Love you guys.
He's scooping all the things. I'm like, hey, are you doing good? Is that too far of a reach? He's just, this kid is an ambitious child. Like he's not a child at all. He's a very productive young man now. And he was so driven and he was so relaxed, even though he was in discomfort.
Yeah.
I came out to do an assessment and you guys told me this story about when he was in pain at the hospital and how you were able to use this special skill set you've been developing and training for over the last year. And her son, at a point in the story, I said, I feel like this bond between mother and child made this so much more effective. And he said there would be no one else in the room that could have done it better than his mother.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I did not know he said that.
Yeah. And it really rang true for me because I thought, how many people, how many kids, how many adults would benefit from this? I think it was like co-regulation techniques for their children in pain. My friends who have children that go through cancer treatments and, anybody's child who's in the hospital and worried about all the people coming in and out and poking them with things. And it's a scary situation, sometimes even in your own home, if like you're in a new situation or they have to go to school and they're worried about all the kids at school. Like there's so many situations in which our children or children in general need the guidance and leadership from adults. And we also are there to help them in an almost emotional steadying state. And your child happened to be in a lot of pain in this situation. You guys are sitting in the hospital. So tell me about that experience.
Okay. I'd love to talk to you about it. And I'm going to warn you, I am going to cry. It's really hard for me. It's so fresh because it just happened.
This is a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping like 6 months I can actually talk about this without crying. But I do want to share this because it was interesting to me that this happened in our lives because it really showed me that this works. All this training I've been going to, I've been training. It's been almost a year now. I've been in intense training. I've been going to Conscious Discipline. I'm going to repeat that program again because it's a great program. Definitely follow them. I've been going to all of their trainings because I just had this strong passion and desire to teach kids how to regulate their emotions. And I think that...
And who knew how useful it would be for you personally?
That's the thing about it all. Like I've been learning about it and I've been teaching parents and I've been using it with my students in my own classes and I've seen how well it works. But to have it really hit home like this really fired and wired my brain. And now my passion is just, I'm on like a high boil, I say. I want to share this with the world. I want to teach parents how to co-regulate with their kids, how to teach kids how to understand their brains, how to drive their brains. And what happened was, is we got a call, just like you, Amber said, we got a call from a state trooper on a Saturday morning. It's like the most dreaded phone call any parent can get. Your child's been in a terrible car accident and he's being airlifted to Flagstaff Hospital right now. We were like, oh my gosh. I mean, every parent, like they're like, my children live in my heart. Mm-hmm. So my physical body was hurting just knowing that he was alone on this helicopter and he was injured and I didn't know how injured he was. And I couldn't get to him. And it was just such a scary feeling. But I reminded myself that I have a brain and I can regulate my brain. And I reminded myself, hey, you got to stay in your executive state or you're not going to be able to make good medical decisions for your son. And this is really important. This is really important right now. So first I regulated myself. And it's really, teaching kids how to regulate, it's an adult first it's an adult first. You have to be,
like your own air mask on the airplane.
Yes, air mask on yourself first. If you're not regulated, you can't teach your kid to be regulated. So the first thing I knew to do, and I went right into action. And as a result of all this training I've been in, I went, okay, I've got to regulate. And my hubby, he hasn't been all this training. So he was not regulated. So I really had to be regulated. I mean, he did an amazing job. He was amazing. But he's the dad. He wants to protect. He was worried about our son. And I was too, but one of us had to stay in our executive state the whole time. And I knew that had to be me because I have the training. So I kept myself in my executive state. I did a lot of breathing because breathing is what helps you regulate your nervous system. So I did a lot of deep breathing, and the kids learn about these breaths. We have all different type of breathing techniques that I teach parents in my parenting classes. I teach moms in my my Sparkle from the Inside Out Club for moms. It's like a support group and learning group for moms. But I teach it to the kids first and foremost. They learn how to breathe. We practice breathing. And when you practice breathing, you'll know how to do it when you're in an emergency state like that, when you're in your lower states, your survival or your emotional state. And I was in my emotional state. My kids being being airlifted. I was also slipping into my survival state, like panic mode, because I couldn't get to them. So I just breathed for 2 hours. I just was breathing the whole way. Ken was driving. I had my hand on my heart, my hand on my belly. I call this a heart hug. This is what I teach the kids. Everything I teach the kids, I was doing for myself. Oh. And it really helped. And I did, Amber. I stayed, you can ask Ken, I stayed in the executive state the whole time. I was like a robot. I stayed executive the whole way. As soon as I knew exactly what to do. I had somebody at the hospital that my husband's stepbrother lives in Flagstaff. I knew exactly to call him. I told him, hey, I'm having an emergency. I need you to go there and be with my son until I can get there. But if I wasn't in my executive state, I wouldn't have remembered that he lived there, and I wouldn't have thought to do it. So I stayed in my executive state. I called my father-in-law, who's in Sedona, which was closer than we were. I told him he needed to get there, and he was able to get there. If I was in my survival state, I wouldn't have thought to do that. So my son I now know that his stepbrother, even though he's not super close with his stepbrother, he is now, but he is somebody he knew. And then his grandpa, when his grandpa got there, of course, he knows his grandpa. So it's like...
Has family with him.
Yes, he feels good.
I'm okay.
Yes, he's like, I knew that was going to be good for his brain because I could feel how he was feeling. That's that attunement thing. And I knew that he was in survival state. So if he had his grandpa there and his step uncle there, that he would move out of that survival state faster into maybe more of his emotional state so that he could have command of his brain, which, of course, our brains control our bodies. So I knew that was my attunement piece. I could feel his feeling. I knew that this would be better for him, and it was. And when I finally got there, he wasn't panicked. He was in an emotional state. He was uncomfortable, and he broke his back, Amber.
Yeah.
He broke his back, and he didn't break it small. He broke it big. And it was a really big deal. And we didn't know. We didn't know if he had hurt his spinal cord. We didn't know if he was going to, what was going to happen. We just didn't know.
They just told you at that time he was going to need surgery of some kind, right, for his spine.
Yeah.
And they really didn't have more information. I remember getting an email and I was like, oh, wow, this is very serious. Hopefully the best outcomes.
Yeah.
And then did he have surgery that day?
So they waited till the morning. So I stayed in the intensive care unit at the hospital. And that's when I did the co-regulation. He was in an incredible amount of pain. The back is the most painful break. I mean, he was all those nerve endings.
I'm a PT, and they called me actually because he had this injury and he was back at home and needed some help, and he's having a lot of pain still. So, it's interesting because we're in the height of opioid regulation.
Yeah. And
so anything the hospitals can do to help give you the least amount of pain medication possible is something that they're interested in doing right now to help make sure they're not over-medicating people as well. And even then, our bodies and our nervous systems are designed to give us signals about things that are bad for us. Okay. So like fire, hot, reflex, pull. Right. So your body, when it has a pain response, it's meant to do several different things, including create inflammation around an area just to protect it.
Okay.
It's meant to brace all of your muscles so that you don't move.
Yep.
It's meant to heighten awareness for things you can and cannot feel.
Yeah.
Not feeling is probably way worse than feeling. Yeah. Although swelling around the spinal cord can really, really mimic things like inability to move just from swelling being present. So whenever something happens to the spine, especially for young men, it's actually typically a few of the things like motor vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, gunshot wounds, and knife stabbings are some of the top spinal cord injury states. Yeah. And unfortunately, your son actually falls into the age category of people who are most likely, and gender-wise, most likely to sustain those kinds of injuries like spinal cord injuries. So you guys were in this state. You're not sure if he's going to be partially paralyzed or paralyzed. You just know he's going to have this spine surgery.
Right.
And he's in this incredible state of pain, and you're in there with him.
So I didn't sleep for 2 days. I had no desire to sleep. That's my mommy inside alarm going off. You just do what you got to do for your kids. And I co-regulated with him. He was not allowed to move Saturday night because we did not know what was happening in his spinal cord yet. And if he moved, there could be further damage. So he had to stay super, super still. So I was like mama bear on steroids. I was watching, I would not sleep. I was like watching over him like a bird watching over her babies in the nest. Like I was like just watching him all night long. And he would wake up. He had some pain medication, but he was prepping for surgery. So there were some limitations there. He couldn't drink or eat. He was so thirsty. He was so uncomfortable. And he'd been out all day. It's hot out. So they were going on a fishing trip I don't know if he was even hydrated at all. He's a boy. I doubt he thought, get up, let's drink some water. I got to stay hydrated.
He's a boy.
Like, hydrate. I wasn't there. I wasn't. So I doubt he even hydrated that. So he probably had nothing to drink the whole day. So he was like, I'm so thirsty. And he's like, I'm so uncomfortable. And I'm like, you know what? So I stayed in my executive state, Amber, and I just looked at him and I did all these co-regulation strategies. And basically what I did is, we learned this in the trainings, you should get real close to your baby and you look them right in the eye. So like I call them eyeball kisses with the little kids. You look, your little black dot in your eye looks at their little black dot in their eye. And then that way the child can feel your energy and feel your love for them. I mean, this is what co-regulation is with the baby. So I did, or a toddler even. But my kid was in survival state. So he was in the lower states of his brain. So I just knew my mommy instinct was like, try this. So I did the co-regulation with him. I looked him right in the eye. I stayed in my executive state. I'm regulating myself first. And when I felt regulated, I'd look him right in the eye and I would hold his body so he could feel me breathe. And I said, looked him right in the eye and I said, Luke, this is hard. You can handle this. This is hard. You can handle this. And that was our mantra. I just kept saying, this is really hard. You can handle it. And he could see on my face that I knew with 100% certainty that he could handle it. So what happened
Trust,
in his brain?
Empathy. He can feel you. He knows you're right.
There's that monkey see, monkey do parenting thing. He saw on my face that I had 100% certainty, without a doubt, because I'm in my executive state. My face communicated to him, you're going to be okay. So then he knew he was going to be okay. And then he signaled to his body, we're okay. And then his body would relax and we would breathe together. We would deep breath in, hold it, let's let it out. And my breath would go on his neck. So he could feel the rhythm of my nervous system, my calming nervous system. And in conscious discipline, they call this download the calm. I was downloading the calm.
Yeah. Wow.
I was downloading the calm. And I did that all night long. And then he was prepped for surgery at 3:30 a.m. He went into surgery. I sat in the waiting room, hugging myself because I'm a human and my baby is in surgery. And so my body hurt. My heart hurt. I could basically feel his pain and his emotional pain. It was in me. And so I allowed myself to go into the emotional state because he wasn't there. And I hugged myself and I rocked myself and I soothed myself. And I said to myself, this is hard. You can handle this. This is hard. You can handle this. And just that alone, I felt like if we're connected, he could hear me. And I just knew we were connected. I'm like, he can hear me. So I was hugging myself. This is so hard, but you can handle this. And I don't have a mom. My mom passed when I was younger. So it's hard. I didn't have anyone to mother me. So I had to mother myself because this was really hard and I could handle it.
Yeah.
And we got through it. And the next day when he got out, after the surgery, it had been several hours and he came out and I looked right at him and he was in so much pain, Amber, so much pain. And I just said, Luke, and I was crying at this point because he could see that I could feel his pain. I said, this is hard, but we can handle this. And when I said we can handle it, he knew this was not just his problem. This was my problem and his problem and his dad's problem. And we became Team Leshin from that point forward. And that's all we refer to each Team Leshin's on it.
Yeah.
Like, we're on it. You need pain. Team Leshin is on it. And that's what we became. We became the Team Leshin. And then his big brother at home was part of Team Leshin. And the four of us got through it. And I'm really, let's move out of the sadness and into the happy. That day he sat up in the bed and we were ecstatic. We were like, oh my God, he sat up. And in some ways I feel a little jealous of myself, because when you're a mom, you get to see your kids sit up for the first time and you're so happy. It's like such a great thing.
Yeah, or stand or walk.
Right. Well, right. So I got to experience sitting up twice.
Oh my gosh.
The joy in my heart when he sat up was just like when he was 6 months old and he did it for the rest of
You give me goosebumps with your positivity.
I mean, no, but that's what, I was like, look at me, I get to do it twice. And then the next day he stood with a walker and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like that mom again.
Yeah.
He stood. And we were Team Leshin was like fist bumping. We're like, yes. And then, because we were in our executive states, we stayed high and we were able to regulate ourselves. So, and he was laughing because we were laughing and that helped him get through the pain.
Yeah.
And then, my gosh, yeah. This boy, I should say man boy, he kept graduating out of everything. So you know
I know
about
you guys
this stuff.
called me, I think each night and I was like, okay, great. So he's taking steps. That's fantastic. Where are you going to discharge to? We were talking about settings.
Right.
That he couldn't go home yet. And then he's home immediately. It was fantastic.
It was
mind-blowing, a godsend. Absolutely all of the things that you hope are going to be miraculous did happen for your son. Like literally, he's
a walking miracle.
He literally is not using crutches, a walker. He's a month out of surgery. 1 month. That's it.
And his neurosurgeon just told us at his 2-week post-op, it was originally a 3 to 6 month recovery. Yeah, they reduced that to 4 weeks.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
This kid is a walking billboard for everything to go possibly right, and to fully have hope. I have no doubt that a lot of the things that you guys were doing together, and just his reaction to you kind of recounting, we did breath work, and they couldn't give him anything for pain, and we did breath work, and hearing him just validate how amazing that felt to him, that it calmed him down and that it felt so good and that nobody would be able to do that like you were. I immediately was just like, every mother in the world has to have this skill set. You cannot do it any better way. Yeah, that's how I felt.
The parents know their kids better than anyone. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. It's because I know, I shouldn't say I really believe. I know that the mind controls the body. And so but we control the mind. And if we can learn how to control the mind, that's what Luke did. He has a mindset of steel. His mom obsesses over this stuff. So I've been teaching him these strategies since he was born. Before I knew about...
He's got Superman mind.
Well, before I even knew about any of this research around the training, I just had this intuition about teaching my kids to be strong in the mind, and teaching them how to control their emotions and how to regulate and how to live to their highest good and all that. That's just part of who we are as a family. So now I actually get the training and I know the science behind it. And this stuff is not just my mommy intuition. It's like,
this is your
science.
Superpower.
Yeah, this is my superpower, but now I have the science to back up what my superpower is. So now I have a way to teach other moms and dads. And I'm so excited about it because I know that Luke's experiencing this type of success because he has a mindset of steel. And I don't want to take all the credit for that. I'll take a little bit. Because I do believe, and I'll end on this note because this is a big one. Are you ready for it?
I'm here.
Okay, my aunt, who's amazing, she told me something when my kids were little that stuck with me forever. She said, Jill, children are born a color. Your parenting makes the color darker or lighter, but you can't change the color.
Oof.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
It was him. My parenting helped, but it was him. I give him all the credit, and I'm just so blessed to be able to have this wonderful, happy ending.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I absolutely love today's interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you even more for sharing what your heart's passion is with other people, with mothers, with children. Yeah. It's wonderful to see such sunshine come out of someone's heart. So thanks for sharing your superpowers with the world.
Thank you.
Thanks for also finding a way to share it with way more people.
Yeah.
I understand that tell us how we can get in contact with you. How do people access this information?
All right. So here's the deal, Amber. I mean, this all just happened. So now I'm like on this mission now to to train as many people as I can. First of all, my first and foremost kids. So all of my classes, I've been so fortunate, are housed out of the JCC. It's on Scottsdale Road, and like just south of Thunderbird. And
that's the Jewish Community Center.
Jewish Community Center. And
do you have to be Jewish to go there?
No. No. In fact, I would say it's like half and half.
Is that an ignorant question?
No, it's
people
not.
Ask that all the time, right?
No, people do ask that. Because it says Jewish Community Center. You do not have to be Jewish to go there. Everybody's welcome at the J. I love the J. And one of the reasons I love the J so much is that they really understand children and they empower kids with their programs. So I teach empowerment classes for 5 to 10-year-olds through their Club J program. And you can find out about all this on the website. Our empowerment classes are just about to end for the summer, but they'll start up again in the fall. And I also teach my Silly to Still class for my 3 to 5-year-olds. And then also we're going to be launching our Sparkle from the Inside Out Mommy's Club, which is a group for moms, and our it's called Parenting Well parenting series, which is going to launch in August. But I'll tell you what, I'm getting all my website and all that built up right now. But the best way, if you want to stay in contact with me now, is to follow me on Instagram. I post all my new programs on Instagram, but also I post parenting, like little snippets from the classes so that you can teach some of these skills to your kids at home. I demo them, and it's so cute because the kids are so adorable, and you'll get to see like the excitement on their faces when they see themselves regulating. It's so cute. So follow me on Instagram.
What's your handle?
It's Jill Leshin, Jill.Leshin. And it's, will there be a link for that?
Yeah, we'll have it below the screen. Okay. And you can follow us on anything. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Yeah. We're all over the place.
And I do have Facebook too. It's Jill Landis Leshin is my name on Facebook. And I also have a YouTube channel that has a ton of children's empowerment videos on there that I have been produced by my amazing husband.
He is so good at what he does.
He's amazing.
That's so cool. I actually saw clips of your stuff.
Yeah.
In a meeting with him, he was showing me your program, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is so amazing.
And the video piece is so great because a child thinks in pictures. And so I give the language, and then Ken adds all this cool animation. And so it's like this amazing video that's like really like transforming the brain. And that's my YouTube channel is Pre-K Academy. It's PREKACADEMY. So there's no hyphen there. My website is www.pre-kacademy.com. But like I said, social media, I'm always on social media. So follow me there. That's where you're going to really find out about the latest information about all my programs. And I can't wait to watch them unfold and help other moms and dads.
Yeah. Fantastic interview. Thank you so much. And happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Absolutely.